Hello everyone. I hope that the previous discussion that we had about tenses was clear to you. So we understood how tenses actually help us understand the time and state of an action. And we also understood that there are three dimensions of time, which are past, referring to something that happened in the past, and the present, which is the here and the now, and the future, which is something that is about to happen. So the past, present and future, these are the three dimensions of time about which we discussed. And we also understood that there are different kinds of tenses: the simple tenses and the continuous tenses and the perfect tenses. And there is also a combination of the continuous and the perfect tenses, perfect continuous tenses. So all these tenses, the 12 tenses, we'll be dealing with in the coming classes. But before that, we actually need to set the ground to learn all this. So first of all, what we need to learn, I believe, is forms of verb. Forms of verb. This is something that is easier to understand if you just try to recollect some examples. When you write something, you must have seen cry, cried, cried. The baby cried, the baby cries, or the baby had cried. Or think of this, maybe write, wrote, written. Write, wrote, written. Write is present and wrote is past, and the third one is the past participle form of the verb. So in English, there are three forms of verb: present form, past form, and the past participle form. Think of some examples again. Read, 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 or come, came, come, and fight, fought, fought, buy, bought, bought, or try, tried, tried, fail, failed, failed. Or so these are forms of verb. First one is present form of the verb, past form of the verb, and past participle form of the verb. So this past participle form of the verb is mostly used with perfect tenses. Perfect tenses are tenses which give you a sense of completion. Set that aside for a while. It's easier to understand that the past form of the verb is mostly used in the past tense itself. I cried, the baby cried, or I ate my breakfast, or I read the book, I wrote my diary. All these things in the past tense, this past form of the verb is used. But the present form of the verb, see, cry, run, these are actually used in present and the future tenses also. That is, Ramu runs, Ramu will run. Again, the form of the verb used along with will is again the present form of the verb. She will cry. So will plus the present form of the verb is used there. So the first form of the verb, present form of the verb, is actually used in future tenses also, not just in the present tense. So you need to understand that the basic idea that you need to understand is that there are three forms of verb: present form, past form, and past participle form. So the present form is used in present tenses, and also along with will or shall or some other helping verb in the future tenses, and also the past form of the verb in past tenses, and the past participle form of the verb in perfect tenses to show some kind of completion. So these are basic ideas that you need to understand. So when you see a sentence next time, you can identify the form of the verb and probably be able to identify the tense, right? The baby cried. This is the past form of the verb. So it could be a past tense statement, right? So then I have eaten. So this could be a perfect tense. It could be an example of a perfect tense. So understanding forms of verb is very important. So the present form, past form, and the past participle form. Now think of the basic structure of a sentence. What all things do you need? You most of the time need a subject and a verb, right? A subject and a verb. The essential things that you need to make sentences are a subject and a verb. For example, the baby cries. The baby is the subject and cries is the verb. The baby cried. It's a past tense statement. The baby is the subject and cried is the verb. The baby will cry. The baby will cry. There is the subject, the baby, and the helping verb will, and there is the verb cry. So will cry indicates future. Now these are some basic pointers from which we need to move on to the tenses. I just wanted to give you some clarity about forms of verb. That's why I gave this quick video here, and after this we'll be moving on to simple tenses. Most of the time when you teach tenses, the order is that you teach the present tenses first, and then the past tenses, and then the future tenses. But I'm sort of thinking of the reverse order, whereby I teach you the simple tenses first and the continuous tenses later, and the perfect tenses and the perfect continuous tenses, and so on. This is how we will be progressing. So after this video, we will be immediately going into simple tenses. So thank you for listening, guys. Keep this in mind: the present form of the verb, past form of the verb, and past participle form of the verb. So 3 forms of verb. Just look at some words and you'll be able to remember it better. For example, some teach, taught, taught, or sing, sang, sung, or maybe bite, bit, bit. So these are forms of verb in English. So with this knowledge, newly gained knowledge, we move on to the simple tenses in the next video. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next video.